Hey guys, Dark Humility here. You usually catch me streaming Diablo 2, PD2, or D2R 6 to 7 days a week on my stream at twitch.tv/Dark Humility. Today, we have an awesome guide for you guys today. It is the patch 2.6 Labor of the Month, but not quite. It's a different take on it. It is the Claws of Thunder Assassin. I will be making this guide here on Hardcore Ladder on Battle.net, and I will show off her skills, her stats first, then skills, then mercenary gear, then my own gear, and then we will demo various areas in which she can farm. She is a beast, and arguably straddles the A or S tier, depending on what you guys think about this build. I think most people would agree that the damage is out of control, but there's always definitely a few drawbacks. Now, my goal here with this guide here today is to show, or demonstrate rather, that Phoenix Strike is completely unnecessary. I personally don't typically use Phoenix Strike in my playstyle. It is a completely Claws of Thunder focused build. It also makes heavy use of Blades of Ice and makes some use of Cobra Strike and Tiger Strike as well. However, it does have Phoenix Strike, especially Charge 2, as a backup for clearing areas that are very wide open for that extra AoE boost. Alright, so first up, of course, we'll also be using my barb bow here, which is why I have so much health. If you just have CTA, you won't be able to get quite this much health, probably around like 4,000 instead. But she is insanely tanky, insanely strong. Her damage is crazy. She can do any player count, all kinds of different methods, which we will demonstrate. All these different ways to play this build. I'd like to emphasize there are a ton of ways to play Dual Mosaic Assassin in patch 2.6, and I'll show you guys the ways that I particularly prefer. However, I'll also describe other methods and other things you can do and what situations they are most effective. Alright, so without further ado, we have here DH Thunder. Want to put enough strength and dex in to wear your gear. You have a full build. Of course, I'll be showing off the standard build here, so when you actually have gear. When you don't have gear, things are a bit different. And of course, when you don't have gear, Phoenix Strike will definitely outshine most things as well. But when you do have gear, it's a bit different. Anyway, want strength and dex there. Your attack rating isn't going to matter much. However, you will get a decent amount if you max out Talon or Claw because you have Infinity. So you're going to reduce monster defenses anyway. The physical damage will mostly affect leeching with Cobra Strike. Obviously, Tiger Strike will help with that as well, boosting the physical damage even higher for both mana and life leech. And this defense is mostly just provided by Barbode, but you don't need it. It's a shout. You're gonna put the rest of your points into Vitality and nothing into Energy. As you can see here, my res aren't even maxed on Hardcore. However, that changes quickly when I use Fade. So Fade will get us even overstacked res, which is typically what you would want on Hardcore. On Softcore, you can definitely get away with just 60 plus res across the board. Maybe not. You don't have to care about poison necessarily. There's other ways of dealing with poison, such as putting Cure on your Mercenary as your Mercenary's helm. However, when it comes to, which is another rune word, another very staple thing of patch 2.6 besides mosaics. The mosaics, of course, have taken the Diablo 2 world, the D2R world by storm, so it's a bit different in that regard. But the rest of these reds here are just maxed out. They are beyond maxed out. It's beyond 175. 175 would be max. So they're beyond capped, which is good, so it's going to prevent additional damage from Conviction Aura. Like I said, she is a tanky beast. We have, of course, Life Leech, Mana Leech here, and having a little bit of that is good, so when you don't have Cobra Strike or when you don't have time to charge it up, you can still have some leeches. Of course, they will also help in addition to that as well. As you can see with Fade, we have almost 50% damage reduction. This isn't as important on Softcore but on hardcore you're definitely going to want a lot of that, which is where we're at here. If not, I'll kind of explain some of the other gear configuration options for softcore and things that are going to work a bit better for that. You just really want to make sure you don't die on hardcore, and you want to be able to jump into anything and destroy it. Also have a decent amount of magic find. 150 plus is pretty solid stuff in that regard. Okay, and then of course we'll also have some life after each kill, which is also decent for sustain and experience. Having some attack speed is good, but as I'll explain, attack speed can be either bad or good depending on what you're doing on this build. And then you want faster run walk. The cast rate here, we're just barely hitting that 65% faster cast rate breakpoint. On swap, of course, though, we hit the 102% faster cast rate breakpoint for the assassin, which is really good. Of course, it is even possible with Barbo that if you use Wizard Spike and Spirit on her offhand, and even more FCR everywhere else in your build, you could even hit the 174% faster cast rate breakpoint for teleporting on your offhand. So just keep that in mind. It definitely can hit all those awesome breakpoints. Of course, in general, for if your main focus is only Claws of Thunder, or even just lightning damage in general, it does help to have the Lightning Sunder Charm, which is what we're using. You're going to want a source of cannot be frozen somewhere, because it's very annoying to be frozen on this build. And, of course, also have Prevent Monster Heal, which proves to be pretty useful against things like Uber bosses and Diablo clone. Overall, this build just can do it all. She really, truly can. I'm not going to be necessarily demonstrating how it works against Ubers, but I show you guys the damage on this build, and I can show you guys the damage against bosses. You can use your imagination. It definitely destroys Diablo clone. Ubers, no problem. Of course, the main two types of damage you even care about at all on this build are going to be the lightning skill damage and the cold skill damage. Lightning skill damage mainly being the big one. You can get that even higher, of course, with even better rolls on everything. I think you can get it as high as maybe 45% skill damage on this setup, but honestly it doesn't matter too much. And then extra negative enemy light res is going to be key. So percent lightning damage, negative enemy lightning res, plus skills to marshal. Those are going to be your main keys for increasing your damage on this build. And that's how it's going to work. Alright, so next we're probably going to want to go over the skills. So I went over the stats and kind of the stats maybe you guys should focus on. There's a lot of things you can do with skills on a dual mosaic assassin in general. Given that we're Claws of Thunder focused, though, the way you're going to want to do it is you're going to want to max out Claws of Thunder, Blades of Ice, and Phoenix Strike. The only two you absolutely need, though, on a Claws of Thunder sim would be Claws of Thunder and Phoenix Strike, and that would also go just for a more Phoenix Strike-focused dual mosaic setup as well, or one that uses both and continually or commonly uses Phoenix Strike. So these two are absolute musts. One thing to note about Fists of Fire, though, is that it will interfere with your ability to life or mana leech, which is actually very annoying, which is why I don't particularly like it. However, that being said, it would give you extra fire damage if you max this out as well. So that's definitely an option, but then it will prevent your ability to leech. So I don't particularly like it. You also don't need the extra damage. Another thing, of course, is that you could also max out Tiger Strike for more physical damage from Dragon Talon itself, which definitely can help you kill single targets even faster, so that's another interesting option here. However, the main focuses of my build and what makes this build really strong are going to be Blades of Ice, Claws of Thunder. You don't lose your leech from maxing Fists of Fire. Don't bother with Fists of Fire at all. You max out Phoenix Strike, it's a synergy, and also you have that backup in case you do want the Phoenix Strike charges potentially. And then you have 1 point Tiger Strike and Cobra Strike just for massively increasing leech and for giving you some extra physical damage to help out with that leech and to deal physical damage to single targets to more quickly kill targets that are immune to both cold and lightning. You're also going to have max Dragon Talon for maximum kicks and maximum proc potential. Pick very fast in succession, proccing as many times as possible these charge up skills. Of course, Dragon Claw will proc it only twice, but very quickly. It's like a quick 1-2, 1-2. And Dragon Claw tends to be more effective in lower player count and for finishing off monsters, while this tends to be more effective in high player count and against monsters with full HP. So, using these two interchangeably, I actually like to have both of them on my skill speed bar, or I like to have both of them hotkeyed in some respect so that I can use both of them simultaneously. However, the main focus is of this particular build, it will be on Player 8 Terror Zone running. As you can see, we're almost level 98, and we are pushing 99 on this character as well, so definitely going to want that. Alright, the rest of it's pretty simple. This 1 point of burst of speed will become very helpful, especially for charging up and for using pure Dragon Claw. So burst of speed will be your main focus for that. You don't need to put additional points into Claw Mastery as long, because this is only used for charging up. So just gotta make sure you have a decent amount of attack rating maybe on your gear for charging up if you don't have Infinity. If you do have Infinity though, totally fine. You're going to want to put enough points in a weapon block so when you get Battle Command, or as long as you're hitting a 56% chance after that, to diminishing returns and putting additional points into this are pretty brutal. So I'm going to hit a 56% chance of Battle Command there. And then we'll put 1 point into Shadow Warrior as well for an extra tank. It's important to note, though, that you can get like Shadow Warrior on your claws, Weapon Block on your claws. You could even get Death Sentry on your claws, and you could even put 1 point into Death Sentry also if you want that extra AoE damage. A hybrid of physical and fire damage that's very effective in high player count. However, my build does so much damage that you almost never actually get to see this being used in most cases, so I don't even have it on this version of the build. However, if you have it on your claws or whatnot, it's actually extremely useful. And then this is just granted by a claw. I didn't actually get Mind Blast or Shadow Master. These are not important. You're just going to want Shadow Warrior. And then the rest of my points go into Fade. And this isn't just a hardcore thing. Fade is typically what you're going to want to use on Softcore too, to maximize your damage with Dragon Talon. Attacking a little bit slower than you'd actually think you'd want to, but you actually do want to attack slower because of something called next hit delay. So you're not going to actually use burst of speed to use this. It's good for survivability too. It's difficult to get a lot of res on this build, a lot of DR and whatnot. So even on Softcore, Fade is typically the way to go, especially if you're using Dragon Talon. And so maxing that out is very nice, just for extra, especially on Hardcore, you'd max that out. On Softcore, you can put 1 point into that, use it, then, like I said, you can maybe max out Tiger Strike for some extra physical damage. You could do Fist of Fire if you don't care about Sustain, but the Sustain is really punishing. You have that, or should I say the lack of Sustain is punishing. Alright, let's go into the Mercenary. There's a decent number of options on the Mercenary. Because you have Blades of Ice, though, you don't really want to go Holy Freeze necessarily. I don't think that's very useful in this build. You could go Defiance or Prayer, though. I do think the extra physical damage provided by Might to Dragon Talon is nice, though, and the extra damage on the Mercenary is nice. It does give you a little bit of extra leech damage, and will help out a lot of your damage slightly in general, so I prefer to have a Might Mercenary. Infinity, some kind of damage reduction or life leech or damage or res. On the rest of your gear, you're definitely going to want to make sure you have max res in general. We do have max res even without the Fade proc on Treachery. With it, he's got stacked res. He's very tanky. He has attack speed. He attacks pretty fast. And he has damage reduction on Vampire Gaze. Now, if you wanted to give him attack speed and give him even more damage, you could go Fortitude and Indarel's Visage as well. That would also be a very solid setup. I'm liking this Vampire Gaze, Treachery, Infinity setup on him though. It's performing pretty well, and his damage isn't needed so much that using Fortitude is necessarily the way to go. So he gets more damage reduction when he procs Fade. He also has DR on here, so he's a very tanky mercenary. Especially with Barbo, he pretty much almost never dies, which is really cool. And he does a decent amount of damage, and he life leeches very effectively. Having life leech is very key with damage, so that mercenary can sustain. Alright, and then on the gear, let's go over the gear. So, as you can see, this is my life and mana without bow at all, so no bow, still have a pretty decent amount of life there, which is pretty cool. Alright, so what we have here is a Mosaic Sawaya. So you're going to want a slow base, one like this, or a Scissors Sawaya. The reason why you're going to want a base in your main hand, which is your left hand right here, this one, your left slot, is you're going to want to attack at 4 frames of Dragon Talon. And you don't want bursts of speed either, so you're going to want just Fade, and you're going to want a slower base. Scissors Sawaya would work just fine too. So you're attacking at 4 frames, and all of the Novas and Charge Bolts will actually hit because it's on a 4-frame hit delay. And so that means that every 4 frames you can do damage, which is exactly what you'll be able to do with a slower base. With 3 frames, you'll see a noticeable drop in DPS. It's because not all of your attacks are hitting, which is interesting. Now, I also have a faster base. Now, the way D2R works now is your attack speed is only based on your main hand weapon. If you have an offhand weapon, it doesn't determine it at all. So that's why if you have the slow one in your main hand, you can attack with it. But if you put this one in your main hand instead, and use this one and use burst of speed, I will be attacking at the fastest possible attack speed I pretty much can. I might not be hitting the very fastest attack speed frame, but I'm hitting, I think, the one right next to it with this particular setup. And Greater Talons and Runic Talons are the fastest claw bases. And it will be very good for using Dragon Claw if I do this with Burst of Speed instead of Fade, or if I'm just charging up charges, which is faster if you use the faster base here. But you could leave the slower base here as well, and you can just use Burst of Speed, and that will also be just perfectly fine. So you can do that as well. Just make sure when you're charging up to use Burst of Speed, and then when you're charged up you use Fade, and then you start attacking with Talon. If you want to switch to Claw, but you can still use Claw here and there, even with the slow Fade and slow base, just to finish off monsters, which I will demonstrate. In general, though, you're going to want to make 2 mosaics. As you can see, these are in Claws of Thunder skill bases. And so this is a Claws of Thunder assassin. And this one also has good cold damage, and it has decent light damage. And this one has decent cold and light damage. So it's pretty good. Overall, the bases don't matter as much as you might think. You can use Greater Claws too, which aren't too much slower than Greater Talons. Like I said, if you want the slow one in your main hand, you can use Scissors Sawaya. There's a lot of options, really. No matter what, they're going to do a lot of damage. Of course, on a different type of assassin, if you're mostly using things like Phoenix Strike, you would want Phoenix Strike as your main skill and whatnot. But, you know, we'll talk about why I use it this way and the advantages and disadvantages of both. Ideally, you'll have an Enigma. Enigma is going to give you all that mobility to maintain your charges and to hit packs as fast as possible. Griffons Eye. Griffons Eye, very, very good. Definitely a very good thing here. Yeah, Griffons Eye is a pro. Definitely. You're definitely going to want this for maximum damage with Claws of Thunder. If you can. Let me see here. Okay. So at any rate, you're going to load up now. Another thing to show you guys different player counts. So I want to show you guys players 1 and players 3 online. I'll also try to show you guys even higher player count. For that, I'm going to need to join a public game, and we'll see if we can get a higher player count on that. Anyway, yeah, so Griffons Eye is really good. This is providing us our cannot be frozen with the Cham as well. Because I want to hit 65 FCR on this build and also all the DR that I have on hardcore, I put my CBF here. You could also put your FCR elsewhere and then put a lightning facet here for even more negative enemy light res. That's going to be really good, but it is best in slot. That being said, this build does so much damage, you can even just go for a more MF focused approach and use Shaco and a lot of MF small charms. That is a variant on the Maxroll written guide, which you can check out. Definitely check out all those build variants on the Maxroll written guide for Claws of Thunder Assassin. Of course, all of my guides are here on YouTube, and we have the most high quality written guides on the internet for D2R at maxroll.gg/D2. Anyway, that being said, we have Mars, 30 all res there. Mars is solid, but you can also use a caster amulet. If you are going for 102 faster cast rate on your main hand, you will in fact need a 2 assassin 17 faster cast rate amulet, and then you'll use a rack here instead, and you'll lose out on some PR, but you'll gain some plus skills. You'll lose some res maybe, but if you have res on the amulet, that's going to be even better. And then you can get 102 under main hand. Now I went for heavy res DR, so this is hardcore, so it's a little bit different, but if you're on softcore, you can easily obtain a 102 FCR using that particular setup. You can also use T-Gods if you're afraid of dying to souls, which I currently don't have on, but you can definitely do that. One thing to note about my offhand here is that it's currently set up for Barbarian battle orders, but you would use CTA and Spirit if you didn't have battle orders from a Barbarian. On softcore, you could use Spirit and Wizard Spike, a rack, and 117 FCR Ami, or at least 115 plus. And I think with that, you should be able to hit 174 faster cast rate, which would be pretty big stuff. Yeah, so with like an extra 20 FCR here, an extra 15 there, that's 35. If you have 35, it's 70. Then on your offhand, you'd be able to hit that pretty easily. As a matter of fact, you'd still be 10 over. So you could probably actually do it just I think like a 2.6 or a 2.7 assassin amulet there. I don't know if my math is checking out right, but yeah, you don't even need anything as fancy to do that if you wanted to, and you can teleport very fast in between packs if you swap to your weapons here. So this is an elite boot. That's all you really need in general. You just want to make sure you're using a double upgraded boot or an elite boot of some kind. Gore Riders and Goblin Toes will help your physical damage. Shadow Dancers will give you some extra shadow skills, which can help out Fade and your Shadow Warrior and Weapon Block and things of that nature. Shadow Dancers is actually a great option for this build. But yeah, it is, but alas, we don't have it on here at the moment. As you can see though, we went for more res, and we went for Dex, which is helping us wear the claws, and we also have MF. The only thing it doesn't have is faster run walk, but the good news is we have Enigma, so it doesn't really matter that much. Not only that, we also have burst of speed, and with those two things combined, we still move very fast even without faster run walk on our boots, so it's not a big deal. And of course, we also have faster cast rate here, here, and here, so that's allowing us to hit 65 with the Griffons. That's why we're hitting 65 currently. I recommend honestly using Mage Fist rather than like something like a 320 Martial Gloves, but you can do that. You can use like a 220 Martial Gloves. If you're fine hitting like 65 maybe with a rack or something, you can get even more plus skills like that. I personally would just go for the faster cast rate because it helps you maintain your charges. Even on softcore, I would just go for 102 on your main hand setup if you can. If you can't, Martial Gloves work very well as well. And then as you can see, you know, we got Mana Leech, we got Res, we have Dex to wear the claws. Honestly, yeah, this build's very, very tanky, very, very strong. definitely built a bit more for hardcore. But you would still use 10 FCR rings if you were going for the 102 setup on softcore. So there's no differences there. Okay. So I hope going over this gear has kind of helped you understand how this stuff works. You could even go train gloves if you wanted to for more res, but I do like the mana regen. I feel like mana can be sometimes a bit of a problem on this build while you're teleporting, so even more mana on like a ring or something would also be very nice. Okay. And so we have life, martial skills, MF, -70, crack of the heavens. So this allows us here to do some very good stuff with that as well. We got a friend joining here. Anyway. Yeah, anyway. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, so we actually are making this video on Battle.net. Typically I do single player, but hey, we went hard on Hardcore Ladder here for Ladder Season 3, so may as well show off some cool things. Alright, so we have Life, Martial, Skillers, and then I have MF here. Now, no, if I didn't care about my MF as much, I could actually increase my damage a bit. I think I actually will for this video. I'll just show you guys what max power kind of looks like in general. And of course, we'll have Crack of the Heavens for Sundering, Lightning Immunity to 95, which means that all this negative res from this and from the Infinity will apply on top of that. Sundering any lightning immunity to negative or to 58 light res, which allows you to do quite a bit of lightning damage to them. However, we also have Blades of Ice as another main attack we can use to do more damage against them. Alright, so then of course we have the Assassin Torch, the Annie, and a bunch of life res charms. And we're also hitting some FHR, hitting the 15 FHR breakpoint there. Not a very high breakpoint. You can hit 27 or 48 as well pretty easily if you really want to. I don't really think it's that important. She has pretty good frames to begin with, but definitely hit, maybe not have 0 FHR. That could be kind of bad. So, but we also have block as well, which means we're also going to be hitting a block animation. But that doesn't matter while we're doing Dragon Talon anyway. So as you will see, it does 1 billion damage, and it doesn't actually matter. Yeah, that's basically it. That's what you want to do. Martial Skillers, you can go pure MF charms if you want to, because you don't even need all this damage. This is mostly for really high player count, like Players 8. So hopefully we can show you guys some higher player count games, and show you how you can perform in higher player count games as well. But what we will do, though, before we're actually able to do that, is we will start out with showing you guys just lower player count. So that's kind of how you do the skills, that's kind of how you do the gear, that's kind of how you do everything, all the essentials. But, as you can see, I gotta make sure we don't die there. Bad. This is hardcore. This is being done on hardcore ladder. Dying is very bad on hardcore, so as you might know, you're probably fully aware, if you die in hardcore, it won't be any good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself Barbo, and it actually looks like we have World Stone Keep and all the other fun stuff here. Wow, we have World Stone Keep Terror Zone right now. That's kind of neat. Maybe we can show you guys how we perform in that easy there for a bit. Be kind of nice, right? Definitely convinced it would be. Alright, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna bow and just show you guys players 1 for a bit. Now P1's kind of interesting. In P1, I don't even really think Dragon Talon is usually the way to go, which is why on my Maxroll guide I recommend Dragon Claw for lower player count. You'll see though that our health is insanely high right now though, so yeah, we're good to go. So what I'm going to do is to charge up using this. I'm going to charge up off of him here. You can see I charge up very fast at the fast one. And you'll see that's frame 3 kick there. But I also kill things so fast that honestly that's not needed. So what we're going to want to do here is we're going to go to some areas here just to show you guys some P1 real quick, and I think you guys will get the idea after a couple of areas. Damage is very high. Now the charges expire I think after about like 14 seconds. So what I just did there is I charged up Cobra Strike, Tiger Strike, all 3 charges. I switched to those hotkeys to do it. I hit those monsters, and then of course we charged up full Blades of Ice and Claws of Thunder.
I can't.
But you'll notice here, also I recommend on your offhand if you're teleporting with it, make sure that you don't have an attack there, otherwise you'll expend your charges. Also, one way to make sure that you're on your main hand when you're attacking so you don't expend your charges on accident when you don't have your mosaics, so make sure you have a different looking icon on your offhand as well. So right here I know I have my throw icon on, which means I can't attack, which means I'm on my wizard spike. Yeah. Unfortunately. But yeah, that's basically it. And then you have more there. So as you can see though, players 1, you can pretty much one-shot anything we want. I'm using Claw, and I'm using the faster weapon in my main hand. So that I can do, I can use Claw as fast as possible and hit that really high attack speed with it. What was that? As you can see though, my res still isn't amazing, but in P1 that doesn't really matter, so I still have decent res, even without Fade, and I made sure I did that on hardcore so that I could do something. You'll notice though that the thing about Talon is you'll notice that we get kind of stuck in place for a while. That's even more the case if we use Fade. As you can see, we kind of get stuck there. Another thing about Claw you'll notice is that it's a little bit more reliable when it comes to leeching. It's interesting, but it is in fact the case. Okay. There you go. Boom, bada boom, da boom. So make sure you attack at least every 14 seconds with a finisher, like Claw or Talon. Since we're in P1 though, just doing a really short P1 demo here. Showing off Claw, just to show you guys that Dragon Claw is extremely effective once you have gear and lower player count. And it allows you to recover so much quicker. Claw is just a really quick one too. Talon will kind of hold you in place. One thing that's interesting though is I believe that your charges will maintain between waves. You'll notice I'm not even using Talon, but I could use Talon for waves because they have a lot of HP. So sometimes even if you're using this approach and you're too lazy to switch claws, you can still do that. That'll be completely fine. We just popped him in the face there. Charges might run out in between that wave, so I go back to like keep my charges up. I think it's because of the Hydras prevent the next wave from spawning. You'll notice that I really don't have to use Talon at all, even for Bale Waves. That's how strong it is in Players 1. Now I'm also going to show you guys P3, and then I also want to show you guys hopefully something approximating Players 8 and show you guys how strong this build really is. You can see I'm not even using Phoenix Strike or anything. Now, of course, I'll show you guys, you know, the advantages of Phoenix Strike as well. Now, what's interesting is that you'll see that my charges will run out for sure. Now for Bale, what's interesting is you could use Claw just to kill Bale, honestly. Like that. The higher player count, I'll show you guys a little bit different. But notice how I only like charged up Blades of Ice and Claws of Thunder there. You don't really need Cobra Strike or Tiger Strike to do the damage. These are really the only two damage things you have to charge up on this build, which is one of the advantages of a Claws of Thunder Assassin. You really don't have to do all those crazy amounts of charge ups, you really gotta have two. The other two just help with basic stuff, really. I'm gonna show you guys one more Players 1 demo. But suffice it to say that she can farm anywhere in the game she wants. She can farm all the keys, she can farm pit, any max level area, any terror zone. Look at that. Players 1 is so clean with Claw. Like, it's just so clean. And if you were only doing low player count, I would even recommend maxing out Claw so you even have a little bit more physical damage. Of course, on Players 1, you don't need all this damage too. You can just go for Shaco even, you can get your FCR elsewhere, and then you can go for more MF, which is, like I said, one of the build variants on the Maxroll guide, so I definitely recommend checking that out if you're trying to be a lot more MF focused. You'll notice there that no matter what, it's really, really easy there to do all that damage. I'll charge up again real quick if you want. And then boom, okay, so Diablo dies in like 2 seconds, but that's just Players 1, so you might be thinking, well, that's not very impressive. And you're probably right. It probably isn't. But that's okay. What we're going to do now is I'm going to put in my Bow Barb extra account here, and I'm going to put in my Paladin. We're going to get Players 3. I'm going to leave the Bow Barb in so it's actually Players 3. I'm going to show you guys a little bit higher player count. Now with Players 3, you could use Talon or Claw. But I'll show you guys that the fast movements of Claw are still very nice in P3 as well. And then I'll also kind of show off some Dragon Talon here as well. Show you guys the same 3 areas, Chaos and Worldstone, which tend to be very difficult areas in the game. And of course, I'll show you guys the pit as well, just a standard max level area. Demonstrate these skills. I can also show you guys cows in P3, which might be a little bit more impressive. I don't know. At any rate, though. So make sure you get 3 balls of each type swirling around you, and then boom, it's time to go. And got like 52 to him. It's really funny. Yeah, I'm sure Soul's like, why aren't you playing this Terror Zone, Dark Humility? It's Worldstone right now. I actually can't play the rest of the day anyway, so that's why I'm making the video now. Maybe not the most opportune time, but yeah. So this would be the equivalent of setting Players 3 on single player as well. Right now we have 3 players in the game. You'll notice that even in the pit, don't have to use Talon in P3. This is how strong this build is. This is how strong this Claws of Thunder is by itself. I don't have to stay in place. Maybe in the future, just Claws of Thunder like this and Blades of Ice will be a little weaker. There you go. As you can see in P3, she cleans up insanely fast, so there's never a worry having damage in that regard. Another thing that you would be pretty surprised that we could clean up very quickly here. I'm gonna have to recharge here. if you want to expend your charges to maintain them right up. There you go. There's a really quick cleanup from Dragon Claw and Travancore. Players 3 is the optimal player count to run Travancore, so there you have it. You really can do it all in this build. There's really not a lot of limitations. We're gonna do Chaos then we'll go do the TZ and P3. Gonna charge up again here. Typically when you go to town, sometimes you'll have enough time. The charges do maintain in town. You'll have to be quick to hit a monster again afterwards. Fun fact. Now, this one really want to show you guys the power. This is just the 1-2 of Claw. This isn't even Talon yet. You can see though, something like a Possessed. You might want to go over here and then hit it with Talon. And look what Talon just did to a Possessed in Players 3. That's how powerful Talon is. And you're definitely going to want Talon if the player count increases. However, for now, pretty nice. Okay. Very nice. Alright, so there's P3. Diablo and P3 would be a little bit harder to kill, so what I can do actually is I can get back to my 4 frame here. I can charge up a little bit slower. There you go. As you can see, we can use some kicks here, and the kicks are sometimes effective. But I'd like to emphasize though just how powerful Claw really is. Like, it's really powerful. Of course, in P3 though, it doesn't typically matter. Go into the Terror Zone. And there's Claw. Just made really short work of Black Souls right there in P3. Really tanky monsters there, taking them down in P3 with ease. This is why if you're anywhere between like players 1 and 3, you really don't have to use Talon all that often. That was an immune to cold and immune to lightning monster there, so it took a couple swings. You'll notice there with Dragon Talon, if I really want to give one of the elites a boot, that thing will pretty much die instantaneously, as you saw right there. And I use Talon. Keep in mind though, this is free frame Talon right now because I have burst of speed on and I'm using the faster weapon. So it's not ideal. Doesn't really matter though. I can just switch between them. I don't need maximum damage necessarily, so long as it's just players 3. That was amped there. That doll hurts pretty bad. Definitely a scenario where Fade would help with the damage reduction. But typically you don't want to ever engage dolls amped, especially in hardcore where you will probably die if you do that. Don't recommend it. So this is still P3 here. So I'm still just using Claw. I mean, this is just how powerful Mosaic Sin is at the moment, of course, but this isn't even Phoenix Strike, so that's the fun thing here. It's gonna kill everything about as fast as Talon, but as you can see though, we can also use Talon as well, and that's gonna kill everything very fast. I think we killed them before they even got out a single Hydra there. yeah, there's a P3 kill there. You can even use Claw and P8 against lower HP monsters. That's just how strong it is. And I just kind of want to demo that here. That's pretty it. There's P3 with Claw there. No problem. For Bale, though, definitely going to want to switch, I think, to the slower weapon as we try to navigate. Forefront here. There's 4-frame Blades of Ice. Blades of Ice doesn't have next hit delay though. Only Claws of Thunder suffers from it, so it's going to help all those Novas and everything hit maximum frame. One thing to note is that charges of Phoenix Strike can also interfere with charges of Claws of Thunder and vice versa because of next hit delay as well. So this is why having a ton of flashy effects necessarily doesn't really do as much as you think it would do in actuality. Okay, so here we got this. I think I'm gonna re-bow myself. Our bow lasts a very long time. We have level 53 battle orders. Okay. Okay, let's go down here. Let's go crush it a bit here. Alright, so we got this here, we got this here. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go rebow myself. I think it's gonna run out maybe. It might. Hard to say one way or the other, but I'll try to do it. Let's see if we can find a high player count game to demonstrate high player count as well. That would be really cool to do. We'll see if we can do what we can find here. So we got this one. Yeah. Alright. So against cows, they hurt. So if you're lacking DR and find yourself in trouble, definitely do that. But notice, though, that was a lightning immune elite. That was the Cow King. She went down in just a couple of claws. So if you don't want to catch yourself being stuck in one place for too long, this is very solid. However, that was with the slower weapon too. Notice, though, you can also do this. If I want to go to 3-frame kick for slightly faster recovery, I can. One thing to note is that you don't have to max Dragon Talon. If you want less kicks, you can, but typically that will lower your DPS, but it'll make your recovery a little bit faster. This player's 3 cows getting melted. But notice here, if I do this as well, go back to burst of speed. With a fast weapon in my main hand, make sure that lower damage weapon in my case is on the top. Character screen. There you have it. Players 3 cows are very good. There's a huge jump in players 1 to players 3 in terms of the number of drops from the frequency of drops from regular monsters, minions, and from bosses. Not elites, not uniques, not super uniques. But monsters like cows here have a way higher chance to drop items in P3. So if you're able to just get like 2 other people to play with you, or just be able to get 2 more accounts loaded in on BattleNet, or players 3 on the single player, you'll be able to accomplish this very easily. Alright, so now what I'm going to do, I think you guys kind of get the idea here. Is I am going to see if I can go find some kind of a game with more players in it. Okay, so this is a game with, I think, 8 players in it. Sweet. Let's see if there's a bow anywhere. Is there a barbarian? Possibly. Let's see if we can just get bow from one of these friendly gentlemen here. I'm actually not sure though. In river. Okay. Perfect. So here, that's a pretty nice bow there. It's pretty sick. And there, right here, what I can do in the meantime is I think they might have cleared chaos in this game. I'm going to show you guys players 8 now. And you can just do this on single player by typing /players 8. If you have a lot of loaders, you can definitely do this as well. But this you'll notice in P8 though, my damage doesn't go down. Now, there's a lot of lightning it means you'll see here, like the archers and that. Notice how in players 8 pit we're still absolutely destroying. Well, that was actually not scripted. That's the best part. I didn't have one. Alright, so there's the pit in Players 8. And as you can see, with a full setup, it's really devastating. We don't even have Claws of Thunder. We don't even have Phoenix Strike. That's the best part about it. Don't need anything but Claws of Thunder, Blades of Ice, and of course the other ability is very nice as well. Now, of course, on hardcore, I recommend being very careful when entering any kind of portals, of course, you're not sure about. However, we are extremely tanky, so I might just be able to enter the throne here. Okay, so this is terrorized. This is terrorized World Stone in PA. As you can see, we are not short any kind of damage here whatsoever. And I only have my damage orbs on right now, so I only charged up Blades of Ice and Claws of Thunder. Here we go. Absolutely just shredding everything. It's pretty insane. They don't even have to do anything. I mean, they might do something if they want to, but they don't have to. Of course, I don't even know if I have my Shadow Warrior out. I think she's just dying. One thing to note about your Shadow Warrior is if you have Fade on your right click, you can get her to Fade too, which will make her tankier. And that's actually a pretty typical tactic here. Let's see. There we go. Of course, we have another Mosaic Sin here, so it's even more insane. You can see there, though, I can just like one-shot this monster here. There's a leap pack here. Doesn't matter. Against players 8 Bale, you can take her out in take him out in like 2 seconds. Meteors didn't even have to drop, really. Let's see if this is how we can get in here. Yep, okay. I'm actually not sure if these are all his loaders or what. It's pretty good. I'm going to continue to try to show you guys some high player count destruction here with this build. Show you guys just how ridiculous this build is. Of course, we also have Phoenix Strike hotkeyed, so I'd also like to show you guys how that works as well. You notice I'm just using the slow weapon to charge up, but I'm using versus speed. Actually, I didn't even have my slow weapon on, strangely enough. Oh, I wasn't even doing maximum damage. Well, this is why weapon switching all the time can get a little frustrating. Okay, so as you can see here, in Players 8 Chaos, damage is not slacking. Absolutely destroying everything. All we have is Claws of Thunder, Blades of Ice. But one of the advantages, of course, of not using Claws of Thunder is that you don't have, there's a lot less things to charge up. However, you might notice though, or should I say not using Phoenix Strike? Did I say not using Claws of Thunder? I might have said that. One advantage to not using Phoenix Strike is that you don't have to charge as many things up. One of the advantages, though, is that you can do things like extra AoE lightning damage, which tends to actually be effective. The third charge isn't that effective because of next hit delay, and the meteors can absolutely destroy bosses like Uber bosses as well. You can see he's doing that there too. Of course, he's using Phoenix Strike. You can see with Fade though, where it's really easy just to destroy everything, and then boom. Game over for the monsters. Absolutely.
Not even death can save you from me.
It's pretty crazy stuff. As you can see, the meteors there, which what he's demonstrating, are very effective against bosses, so charge 1 of Phoenix Strike isn't bad. One of the advantages, though, of not using it, though, is, like I said, you don't have to charge up as many abilities. It also won't blind you, so the most blinding ability is charge 2 of Phoenix Strike. Very blinding white lightning. You also blind yourself, and you're going to blind others. It also causes additional lag on most systems, and will in general reduce your response time and your ability to switch targets. This is all stuff, of course, I plan to demo here as well. But the truth is, you can always use charge 2 Phoenix Strike if you want. It won't be too bad. This would be a situation where using T-Gods would actually be safer, but it's okay. As you can see though, I'm faded, I got my slow weapon, it's my main weapon. And we're using Dragon Talon, we're getting 4-frame kicks. Everything is hitting, it's absolutely devastating. And from the most dangerous areas in the game, in Players 8 solo, which is what we're doing currently. And just jump into souls. And destroy them. Pretty incredible stuff. Now, one thing to note about Fate is that it won't just reduce the curse duration from curses. Of course, Fate's also going to increase your DR massively. And going to increase your res massively. It will also reduce duration on curses, but it will also reduce the duration of things like experience shrines. So if you want your experience shrines to last, you'll actually have to use burst speed, which will reduce your damage slightly. Unless, of course, you're just using Claw on lower curve. As you can see, though, this character is destroying arguably the hardest area in the game in P8 without much of a problem. Just destroyed some players 8 Death Lords with her there. Looks like this area is being MF'd already. If you want to teleport faster, remember to go on your weapon swap. Got more FCR there. Now we already demoed this a bit in P8. But as you can see, he's doing a pretty good job of that himself as well. Let's see if they finished cows already. I don't know if cows is a good idea, but I don't know. Okay. Not all the cows. I don't want to show you guys how we perform here solo. As you can see, it's pretty insane. Look at that. Maximum high refined potential. Just jump into the cows and go swimming. That's how nutty this build is, man. It's nuts. No Phoenix Strike required. However, in a really wide open area like this, Phoenix Strike Charge 2 is actually kind of nice. So in cows, as long as you can endure the lag or whatever else, or the brightness on the screen, it's not a terrible idea to put on Phoenix Strike 2. And as you'll see, the damage in the core of where I'm attacking isn't really higher. It's not. However, on the very outskirts, I am killing more cows a little bit faster. And you'll see that this ability has a bit more AoE, and that's really the strength of Phoenix Strike Charge 2. It's definitely the main strength. It's definitely a pretty big strength. It's not bad at all. It's very, very good. Okay, my charges ran out. Kind of figured they would. I'm going to use Phoenix Strike Charge 2 here. You can see now that we have all of our other things stacked up as well, and we can maintain our charges with the dual mosaics, allowing us to never lose charges now. If you're confused by what mosaic is doing here, that's what it's doing. My charges went out. Rip. Okay. One thing that's also interesting is you can see that against lower HP monsters, we got 6 people currently in the game, and I'm still like one-shotting with Dragon Claw practically, or at least two-shotting. This is how powerful Dragon Claw is, and this is a reason why if you do want to recover faster, instead of getting less kicks in Dragon Talon, I typically just recommend using Dragon Claw, which is very fast, especially if you have a fast weapon to put in your main hand, like a Greater Talons or a Runic Talons. You can see though the sheet damage goes up quite a bit if I'm using Phoenix Strike, but a lot of that damage is not as high as you might think. The minimum, of course, is practically 1 damage. And it's mostly just hitting the outer rims once again, and it hits them once. It's very powerful though, overall, and a very effective ability. But as you can see, the damage on this character is monstrous. And while there are benefits to using Phoenix Strike, you can see that you don't even need it. It is the beauty of the Claws of Thunder Assassin. If you're annoyed by any aspect of the Phoenix Strike, especially the White Lightning, or just the crazy meteors desyncing you, or anything else, rest assured you don't need any of that. And the meteors fall too slowly anyway to do anything except against bosses, Fists of Fire, really, that damage, as you can see, isn't needed whatsoever, especially once you get a full build. And of course, you have plenty of damage with everything else you already have on this build. So we have a level 97 Claws of Thunder Hardcore Assassin, as you guys can see. She is a beast. Hope you guys enjoyed all the overviews, skills, gear, stats, and the demos. There's more details about other options that you can explore on the Maxroll guide, so make sure to check that out. Claws of Thunder Assassin. Of course, there's all kinds of also amazing guides. Of course, there's a Phoenix Strike focused guide as well, not written by myself, but by the Master Teo. So check that one out as well if you actually do care more about using Phoenix Strike on your build. But at any rate, that will be all for me today. And of course, we'll make sure to have chapters for you guys so you guys can refer to any part of this guide and timestamps below. At any rate, check out the rest of Maxroll.gg and my YouTube channel here for any other guides. Hope you guys enjoying patch 2.6. Do mosaics, there's nothing like it. And as you can see, you can do incredible things with it, even without skill that a lot of people think you need. You just get Claws of Thunder in your claws, you get a very high skill level, and you're going to crush it. Destroy, absolutely eviscerate, carry your team, carry yourself, all the way through players 7, players 8. Maximize your drops with almost the same speed as players 1. And go fast. So claw and smash. Dragon Talon. Dark Humility. Over and out. See you guys next time. Let's get it.